Welcome to the Go Big Redcast with Dave, Honky, Homer, and Redcast Rob.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast. We've got today's second Lunchcast edition with our special guest, second team All-American, Associated Press, and future NFL draft pick, JoJo Domann. What is up, JoJo? How are you today?
Dude, living the dream, having a great day. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, speaking of living the dream, you got the NFL draft coming up here, and I know that you've been spending a ton of time preparing for the draft. You've got a great video series on YouTube right now under is it at Dominator, right? Is that how you say it?
At the Dominator, yep.
At the Dominator. It's right now it's up to 4 videos. It kind of walks everybody through some of the process that you've been doing for the NFL draft. So tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about how it's been for you so far.
Yeah, it's been a journey, no doubt. And the video series is just a way for me to express and to share my story. And it's been awesome because we just go behind the scenes on what it's really like and what I'm thinking and kind of like my mindset on how I approach things throughout the process and how I take care of my body, how I take care of my mental, and just everything that I put into this process, and what football means to me. So it's a fun little video series. If you haven't checked it out already, definitely check it out.
Yeah, give it a follow on YouTube, hit subscribe, because when new videos come up, you'll get notified for that. And let's talk a little bit about that too, because one of the things that you mentioned in those videos that really caught my attention, you were talking about how you were at Nebraska, you were prepping for the draft, you did your pro day, and one of the things that you mentioned when you went out to Florida to start training was how your mentality changed because it kind of gave you a different view about like the way that you were eating and training. So can you go in a little bit more detail than you did on the video series itself about that and what some of those changes were?
Yeah, basically, well, first off, I had to change my relationship to food. Instead of looking at food as pleasure, looking at food as fuel for performance. And that was the first thing I had to kind of adjust in my mindset, which then allowed me to then look at foods objectively on how they affect my body and how they affect my performance, give and take away from that performance. So it came from eating like 3 big meals a day to eating like 6 to 7 like little meals like throughout my day, and just no processed foods, strictly water, and just picking and choosing like when I choose to indulge in pleasurable things, because obviously we all love food. We have taste buds for a reason, and obviously like I love ice cream and queso as much as the next person, but just I don't need that in every meal, right? So just picking and choosing where I splurge, so to speak.
No, that's fair. And as far as like workout routines and some of the training that you've been doing with that, I noticed that you did not participate in some of the drills in Indianapolis that you did participate in at your pro day in Nebraska. And I know that you had time between that as well, where I think you spent some time in Florida between those two things doing some of the training. What was it that kept you from doing those at the combine that then had you doing them in Nebraska?
Well, at the combine, they were at like 11 p.m. at night. So just strictly off that, we knew we were going to be tired. And, after going through everything at the very end, we're supposed to do like the L cone and the shuttle. So it just didn't make sense. Like objectively on paper, it just didn't make sense. But I was going to go in there and basically just play it by ear. And my legs were done after all the drills. So I just called it. Like it was as simple as that. So when it came to the pro day, like the thought process into doing everything was just to compete and just to push myself to do better than I did at the combine. Like at the combine, like there's just a lot of, pressure and stress of just being there for the week. You're not getting a whole lot of sleep. You're not on your own nutritional schedule. And there's just a lot more variables at the combine. When at the pro day, like I was just in my element, in my own space, and I felt more prepared for the pro day than the combine.
Well, so we already got some questions coming through here on our feed, and so I'm going to throw one of them up here because it actually has to do with that. And Husker Nuts asking, and he says, "Your dad's an NFL agent, Craig, who we're going to actually be talking about here in a couple of weeks. I think it's April 19th. We'll be having him on the Go Big Redcast to kind of talk about his experience as an NFL agent and whatnot. So super cool to your mom Teddy for setting that up with us, but." It says your dad's an NFL agent. So how was he able to prepare you for the NFL Combine? So some of those decisions you made, did that have anything to do with it?
You know, I'll kind of spin the question of just how has he helped me prepare for the NFL in general, because that's where he's helped me the most. Well, one, like on a fundamental level, like as a father, like he believes in me and right thinks that I can do everything he did and more, which then having that from my dad is powerful and is inspiring to just let me do that, and it's not something that he just did all of a sudden. Like it's been happening my whole life, right? Him creating opportunities for me to succeed, putting his business secondary to coaching his kids and raising a family, is something that I definitely hold dear to me, and just all of that has kind of led to me being able to trust him, and also seeing how he operates, seeing how he's worked my whole life, right? Building relationships with his players. He does things the right way. He does his work with integrity, and that's something that, I want to be a part of.
Sorry about that. Something started playing here real quick, and I don't know what that was. Oh, sorry about that. It's in my headphones. I was actually looking up some of your NFL Combine numbers here, and just and for some reason it started playing a video of you in the background, so I could hear it in my headphones. It threw me off there for a second. But speaking of your dad, I've got a quick clip from one of your video series that I'm going to play here for you. And I want to know a little bit about your mindset when you went to the Senior Bowl, right? And your dad kind of brings something up in this clip here real quick. So let's take a look at that clip real quick, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, JoJo, it's Dad. Hey, man, I'm leaving practice number 1 to go pick up Mama. Come back and watch you practice. I just wanted to let you know this is a game of energy management. Be dialed in when it's your turn. Just go be you. Go be the best vibration of JoJo. Go be you, man. And understand that energy, being competitive, and being physical are 3 things that you do. And when you do it, you shine. And that's what this is about. Love you, dude. Bye-bye.
So there you go. Your dad was giving you some advice here going into the Senior Bowl. So what was that experience like? Like, what were your goals playing that game? How were you pushing yourself? How were you trying to get yourself seen?
Yeah, well, that was like the first game that we did, right? So that was kind of a shock, and to be around those people in that type of competition was amazing, right? Such a competitive alpha male environment. But when it came to like my approach to practice, like the practice was the game, and they were the most physical practices I've ever been a part of. And I was learning a new scheme, playing a new position, and I just approached it just trying to show what I do best and just play football at the end of the day. And the first day I was a little in my head because things were slow. Like I'm thinking more than I'm playing. And I remember sitting down with myself and just being like, dude, that's not what this is about. It's not about being perfect out there. It's about just going hard and playing ball. And I came out there day 2 and really just let it loose. And it felt so good. And I performed a lot better. And so when the game came, like I knew I wasn't going to get a lot of reps, and I was really looking to steal some special teams reps, and I did steal a few, and I actually I got pulled back. They pulled the reins back on me because I was trying to basically take other dudes' reps towards the end of the game. But that first punt where I tackled the dude at like the 4-yard line was just a tribute to my mindset of, I'm only going to get so many opportunities. I gotta make a play when the opportunity presents itself. So just really the mindset is every. If you're prepared mentally, if you've already done it mentally in your head, like you're going to be able to do it when the opportunity presents itself. If you're just hoping or praying without the confidence, without the knowingness behind it, there's a good chance it'll pass you by.
Yeah, because and let's talk a little bit about that too, because let's talk about what some of your strengths are according to the NFL Combine, if you don't
I
mind
lost
touching
you.
on to.
I ain't got
Oh,
no audio.
but you got no audio, huh? What about now?
I think it's on my end. I got a phone call from
Okay.
my dad. Yeah, I can't
So
hear
can
you.
you
Do you want me to leave and come back in?
yeah, if you want to leave real quick, come back in, that'll be
Yes,
fine.
no, yes.
So we're gonna take a quick break here, and I'll just cover a few of the strengths and things like that that JoJo had at the NFL Combine, and as he comes back in here, and we'll get him back on here. Some of the strengths that we were talking about for him. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, perfect. So I was just getting ready to talk about some of the strengths from the Combine, right? That they were talking about. If you don't mind, kind of going over some of those compliments and critiques, we'll call them.
All right.
Um, Calling you extremely tough and rugged, really good at slipping blocks in space and driving through the ball carrier. I mean, if that's one thing I noticed about you watching every Husker game that you played in, your ability to tackle and finish the tackle. Strong fundamentally and stacking blockers, able to press, get the edge in an instant, willing to do the dirty work and disrupt in a blocking scheme, good efficiency of movement in the box and in space. Obviously, your interception, so you have good hands. That's for sure. And Husker Nut asked another question here too about it too. Said, how do you think playing a hybrid defensive back / linebacker role at Nebraska affects the way the NFL teams might grade you? When you speak to those teams, are they talking to you about that kind of a role? What are they saying to you?
Yeah. It's absolutely benefited me. One, because that's my skill set and that's what I'm good at. So just utilizing that skill set in space was a huge jump from 2020 to 2021 for me. And when it comes to like the NFL teams, I'm really a schematic fit. Like a defensive coordinator has to see me, see my prototype, see my skill set, and just who I am as a person, and hopefully want to coach me and want to have me on their football team. And I only need one. There's 32 out there, but you only need one. You can only go to one. So it's more of a schematic fit, and just my ability to cover and come downhill, I think, benefits me. And I have a lot of work to do. There's definitely a lot of things I need to get better at. And I'm really just going to tailor that to when I get on the team. Like, just what do you need me to learn? Do you need me to learn more of a safety hybrid, or do you need me to play more in the box? And whatever they ask of me, I'm going to do and commit to it.
Well, hopefully you get drafted by the Raiders, so you don't have to cover Darren Waller. What are some of the who are some of the teams that you're talking to or that have talked to you? Can I ask you that?
Yeah, I've talked to the Chargers. I've talked to almost all the teams, but like ones that kind of stand out are the Packers, Chargers, Chiefs, Redskins, Ravens. Yeah, just a handful of teams that, I mean, I could find a reason to like every team, any team in the NFL. So really just keeping an open mind and praying it's the right fit.
Well, yeah, and you're gonna have to live there too. So I would assume. I mean, you grew up in Colorado Springs, so you're kind of used to all 4 seasons, really. I live in Colorado too, so I know how that goes. But I'm guessing that somewhere like San Diego probably wouldn't disappoint you if you had to go live in Southern California for a few years through your rookie contract.
Nah, that'd be cool.
So we got a question from Abby Harris here. She's one of my favorite Twitter follows. What is one thing you learned during your time at Nebraska that you'll carry with you in the future and on or off the field?
Heck yeah, I love that question. Probably, I mean, there's a lot of things, right? And just to point out one, I guess that, you conform to who you surround yourself with, right? There's like a saying that you're like the 5 closest people in your circle or something along those lines. And I definitely took that to heart. And through my ACLs, when I felt like I didn't have anything to give, and I was able to lean on and pour into like the people around me because they were pouring into me and holding me when I was down, where that's something where it kind of clicked in my head, like the depth to the type of relationships that you're capable of having with people. And that alone has opened up my heart and my mind to, you know, a lot of love and a lot of paying it forward, because when they held me when I was down, right, it feels natural for me to do the same to somebody else, and to just always carry yourself like that, always looking for ways to help somebody out, impact them in a positive way. And sometimes those find you, and sometimes I feel like we're supposed to initiate to go find those type of situations. So definitely who you surround yourself with and how that reflects your personal growth.
No, I like that, and that was food too. And I'm always like straight from the cuff. So I'll tell you, your mom actually sent me some information today too, because she wanted me to talk to you a little bit about being at Nebraska, being involved in community service, and one of the things is how much you ramped it up, like with the Husker Heartbeat Give Back program with Edgewater Insurance and real estate, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that program that you were doing there?
Yeah. So basically partnered with Edgewater Insurance. And when we first started talking, like, it was just like they wanted, an NIL athlete, and I was looking to make something happen. And when we met, it went from like just surface level NIL deals to like, how can we actually uh, create positive change, and how could we be an inspiration? How could we use this platform to impact people? And that's when we created the Husker Heartbeat Give Back, where for the 12 games of the year, we're going to do $1,000 to a different charity every week, and just promoting it through the beat, my podcast that I did during the season. So it was a really great opportunity to meet a lot of great people, and be able to give them resources, right, and to give them an experience that hopefully they'll carry with them forward to just spread love and light, which is all we can really do.
I like that attitude, man.
So
That's a
yeah,
good
man.
attitude. Yeah. Yeah. You can be my son anytime. All right. I got 4 kids already, but man, if you keep that attitude around, you'd be an awesome role model for my kids. And I think you keep that attitude playing in the NFL, you're going to be an awesome role model for a lot of people. Um, I do have a question though, because you said the 3 letters, all right, NIL, all right, and you have been around it the first year it was available at Nebraska. You've played for 2 different coaches there. You came to Nebraska for a reason, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But you said NIL, and how do you see that? We're going to get a little bit away from or maybe with your experience with it, but then maybe talk about how you're perceiving it to really be affecting college football landscape overall. Is that something that we could discuss real quick? Because
Yeah.
because we spoke with Steven Sipple a few weeks ago on our regular Go Big Redcast, and he went into a lot of detail about how big the NIL program is at Nebraska already compared to a lot of other universities around the country. So tell me, like, what was your experience like? I mean, was it exciting to be able to be, almost like, paid and sponsored to be playing football for a team that you were already playing for and that you already had all of your heart into? So what was that like?
Yeah, that was cool that it came around on my last year. And at the end of the day, it feels natural that you should be able to be compensated for your work, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that we're getting education, but in a multi-billion-dollar industry, like, just an education just wasn't wasn't basically a fair amount in a lot of people's eyes, and which created an opportunity for NIL to kind of come forth. And now it's more of a recruiting tool, basically. And you heard Jimbo Fisher get up in front of the whole media and say, we don't have enough NIL opportunity here, and just like basically shoved it to the boosters. Like, basically told them we need more money out of you,
Step it up.
right? In front of the whole media so that they'd all write about it. Like, it's such a recruiting tool. But it is the way it is. It's not perfect. Nothing is, but So basically my mindset for me personally was initially like everybody's like, what can I get out of this? And still, like, I definitely was compensated more than fairly. And but then I just started through like the relationship with Edgewater and then doing my football camp. It was more about, how can I impact people from this rather than what can I get from this, right? Like, how can I create a wave, um, so to speak? And so I went from my football camp to the podcast to the Husker Heartbeat, and then even doing fun stuff like my Tanner Bar and Grill commercial. Um, right, like just a lot of fun opportunity where you're able to interact with the community, and ultimately, like I said, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Your football camps, where do you do those at?
My what?
Your football camp, where are you doing that at?
Oh shoot, we did that. The field name, but we did that.
Was it in Nebraska, or
It was
was
in
it
Lincoln.
it was in Lincoln? Okay. So are you going to be doing any more of those this summer, like for any of the kids? Are you going to be doing it in Colorado from now on, or what
Yeah,
are
I
your
think so.
plans?
My parents have been doing a pro football camp, a nonprofit camp for 17 years that I was in, growing up. Then I volunteered at when I was in high school. Then I came back to in college. And it's funny because Heidi, the lady that helps put it on, like never let me be a pro because it's a pro football camp. And even like coming back from my senior year, I was like, come on, like let me get a pro shirt. And she'd never give it to me, right? She'd be like, when it's your time, it's your time. So now it's my time. And that's what I'll be doing this
So
summer.
of course you're going to be doing it.
Yeah.
We got a comment from Roger Kennedy. He's on here and he says, "Yeah, I got to go to the Raiders." It's what can I say? We're a pro Raider, pro Husker family going on around here. I'm originally from Northern California, so and moved to Colorado in 2008. So my Husker fandom comes from my grandfather being from Gothenburg, Nebraska, which is kind of about halfway between here and Lincoln. So you're not going to be sticking around for the spring game at all, huh? You're going to be
I
headed back
might be
home?
here for the spring game.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me know if you need a ride. I'll be driving out next Thursday.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
in Lincoln.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard that you were possibly going to be headed back to Colorado here coming up soon. So I
Yep.
wasn't sure if you're going to be sticking around for the game, but, it's, there's a lot going on and all that. And, before the NIL, so you've played for two coaches at Nebraska, right? And can you talk a little bit about, we don't have to name names or anything like that because you've played for a lot of different people while you've been there, but can you kind of tell me the difference in the culture, the way that it was, kind of where you see this program gravitating towards, especially with some of the additions that they've made this year? What, like, you have to be seeing some of that yourself, right? Like still being on campus, still being around. I'm going to assume you're at some of the practices hanging around, just, checking things out. What's it looking like this year? It's 15-0 national champions, right?
Man, I don't know. Basically from like the different coaching staffs, all I can really touch on is how there's just really a different philosophy on how to do things, right? Like quite simply put, just different ways of doing things. And I think that'd be fair with anybody anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And not to say one's right or wrong, but it's just different. And then when it comes to this year's team, I'm really excited for the guys in that locker room. The Garrett Nelsons, the Isaac Giffords, the Chris Kalarviks, the Brody Belts, right? I'm really excited for these dudes that I've seen grow up, be able to get their chance to ball out and represent Nebraska. So that's really exciting for me to be able to look back on this team and this team moving forward and have personal connections with the guys and see them, chase their dreams. So that's inspiring for me.
Cool. So yeah. So I mean, but you do see good things happening with the program right now. We like to try to remain positive here on this show. So, because I know, and I know it wasn't always easy. But man, let me tell you, and this is a family friendly show, but I'm going to say that watching you play every Saturday, you busted your ass out there. You were always one of the guys that they were talking about, and it's going pro seems like a natural fit for you because you're one of those guys that, like, on paper, I'm looking at all these NFL notes and things like that, the negatives. I said I was going to touch on them, but I'm not, because the fact of the matter is, one thing they don't measure at all is heart. And you were probably one of the hardest playing players on the defense out there. I mean, you were a team leader. You were the heartbeat of that defense. And, watching you play, how do you think, like, when you're out there on the field and you get your first opportunity in the NFL to be on the field, do you have it in your head how that's going to go?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the very first time, like,
I'm gonna force a fumble on kickoff.
Oh my God. I was going to say, you're going to force a fumble on kickoff. Are you, that, man, that makes me excited, especially if you're playing for the Raiders. But, like, and what about, like, have you tried to picture yourself, like, tackling another NFL player? Like, because all those guys, I mean, you're playing with the best of the high school kids in college. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to be playing with the best of the best in college, right? Like, these are the guys that, every single one of them has the same taste in their mouth that you do about, what it is. So what are you going to do to kind of set yourself apart out there?
It's my lifestyle. It's who I am and what I stand for, and how I live my life, right, is going to speak for itself. And it is like a stupid competitive environment, and losing's part of the process of winning. And, you're going to get got, but it's only, with a growth mindset, it only propels you towards succeeding. So I have envisioned tackling Christian McCaffrey a couple times. That's definitely somebody I'm chomping at the bit to get an opportunity and a shot at, just because of the respect I have for him and his game, and being a Colorado kid. So
there you go.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I can see that, and hopefully he's playing this year, because the NFL's better when Christian McCaffrey is on the highlight reels, right? Yeah. And so, like, the three, this is another question that like, because your mom and I talked a bunch about, during the NFL draft process and all of that, how do you kind of, like, summarize, like, what were your best experiences going through it? What were your worst experiences going through it? I know on the video series that you did, you talked a little bit about, like, the poking and prodding from the doctors, and some of them were, like, really nice about it, and others of them were, like, trying to rip your legs off. And so can you talk a little bit about that, like some of the positive and negative experiences from that?
Well, yeah, I spent 10 hours the day before at the hospital getting MRIs and x-rays, and then the next day the NFL has, like, a trusted orthopedic doctor to come in, who has all the information from the x-rays, from the MRIs, and, like, specifically, like, checks out those areas on top of, like, the whole body, and then makes a detailed report about you, and then takes you straight into, like, 6 different rooms of 5 different teams with, like, X amount of doctors in there from each team, and he reads off your history, and then they're able to come up and put their hands on you if they want. And it was just like I talk about in my series, it was such a crazy experience, going from like reliving all those emotions from those experiences, like, in my body. Like, it was like happening unconsciously at some point. And then always bringing it back to remembering that, like, I'm still here. Like, I overcame all of those obstacles to be right here, right now. Like, there's no bad energy. Like, there should only be good energy from, right, those memories.
That's why they're looking at you, is because they want to make sure that you can play for them, right? Like, that's that's a super, I'll take that as a positive, right? Like,
absolutely,
the fact that you're sitting there in the first place, I'm going to ask you a personal question here real quick. Has anyone ever told you how much you look like Tim Tebow?
No.
Man,
I look like who?
Tim Tebow.
No, I've never got that.
Oh man, I was looking at some old pictures of that before, and it's kind of like in my head. And you know what I mean? And he's a great athlete. He played here in Colorado a little bit, and obviously won a playoff game with them and had his NFL. But I look at you and I'm like, oh man, he looks a lot like a young Tebow.
Dude,
so
I'm playing it. I get that all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's great. Hey, out of curiosity, did you finish your degree there over at Nebraska? Because I'm gonna have my son watch this, and he's actually going to be starting high school football next year. He's going to be attending a couple of camps this summer, and Can you talk about the importance of the education process too while you're playing football?
Dude, I love this question, and because it's school was always a means to end for me. I literally only did well in school in high school because you had to have good grades to go to college, and I only got good grades in college because ultimately I wanted to stay eligible for football. So I majored in advertising public relations with a minor in entrepreneurship, and I absolutely learned and took things from that time. But what I've found that resonates with me is I like learning on my own, with my style of learning, and it's more individualized. It's more quiet because I am so like hyper attentive that like I get distracted so easily that it needs to be very quiet and very focused. So I really gotten into like reading the books about consciousness, reading books about quantum theory and quantum physics, and just like the infinite possibilities that this life and that creation and the universe has to offer. And that's where I've been educating myself in, where I've found this like alternative path of knowledge that I've been just running down, and I absolutely love it. And it's helped shift my mindset and shift my whole being of from like low vibrational, like doubt, fear, anxiety, depression, to more high frequency, just with the power of intention, and just understanding why we are the way we are, and how can I like basically hijack the detrimental parts of my being to be more efficient and to serve me, to then serve this world. Right. It's just, yeah.
And kind of playing off that a little bit too, because you hear a lot about these athletes, and this is me just kind of ad-libbing now, and if you need to go somewhere, you just let me know, and I'll let you go. But I'm curious, are you like, what about like sports psychology? You hear a lot of these athletes talking about sports psychology. You hear them talking about that sort of thing, the positive mental attitude. Is there anything or anyone like that you're kind of looking towards and kind of discussing some of these philosophies to keep that positive mindset throughout the process?
Basically I don't know how to answer that question specifically, but I basically I have people in my life, right? Every person and every experience is an opportunity to learn something, right? We have these big brains protected by these skulls that sits on top of our body, right? That's like whole job is to analyze things and to make sense of the world. And just one, understanding those aspects of yourself that all of us innately have, and then two, like learning how to maneuver within those confines of like, is happiness a condition? Like a simple example is like, is happiness, do you want to be happy? Like the answer is yes or no. And most people would say yes. Well, would you choose to be happy if this seemingly bad thing happened to you? Where it's like, well, no, that wouldn't be happy then. Well, you said you wanted to be happy. So do you want to be conditionally happy or unconditionally happy? And understanding the difference, and understanding the mindset shift, the relationship shift, that we become so, right, we're looking for that next dopamine hit in technology and food and sex and almost everything. And when we get out of balance, and when like our hormones and our body gets out of balance, like, bro, our brain is just subject to our body at that point. So it's really a fine-tuned mechanism that, like, as being human beings, I think it's our duty to like optimize our vehicle in this life. So that's kind of how I approach it. And yeah, man, it's helped me level up and grow as much as the relationships in my life have.
Okay. No, that is probably the best possible answer anybody could have given me there. And you just said level up too. And before we got started here today, now I'm going to start getting into some of like the personal questions. Before we got started here today, you were hanging out with some of your buddies. You don't have to say who it was. But you guys were playing video games. And you weren't playing video games.
We're playing Catan.
Oh, you were playing Catan. Okay. So it was if you can't see behind me here, I am a huge avid comic book collector, right? So I've got pictures of all kinds of like comic art, and that doesn't even talk about everything I've got going on around me. So Catan, I'm all about it. I hang out at a place in Greeley called the Nerd Store, right? So like
Heck yeah.
they've got every version of Catan that you could possibly want, even like the Infinity Wars version of Catan that they have, right? So that's cool. So you're into like some board games, things like that. I was gonna ask, like, what are some of the hobbies that you're into outside of football, right? Let's push all that aside. You need to get away from football. You need to get away of thinking about your diet. Like, what are you going to be doing with your time?
The best getaway for me is camaraderie, just in any form. Just like I said, I'm a relationship guy, so just being with people like eases my mind. But like when it comes to me personally, like I know it probably sounds crazy, but like I love doing yoga.
Okay.
It helps calm my mind. It takes me out of my mind and in my heart. And I love reading. So I don't play much video games anymore, just because one, I don't really have time, and two, like now that I do have time, like I want to do something like consciously, not unconsciously, and that's kind of how I've shifted. How I spend my time is more conscious things, like, right, like why would I do things that make me unconscious for a long
you're gonna have
period
a
of time?
lot of studying to do once you get that playbook. So you might as well get used to reading now, because they showed us an example of a playbook when I went on the Raiders stadium tour a few weeks ago, right? Like they showed us an example of what the playbook looks like. It wasn't the actual one, and it's like thick. I mean, six to 8 inches thick, man. I
I'm
mean,
looking
that's like,
forward to it.
yeah, and that was just like, one. Who knows what they actually look like, right? So at least everything's on iPads for you now too, which you're gonna be getting set up with that. Well, I feel like I've probably taken up plenty of your time today, and I can't tell you how excited I was. I mean, I have seriously been reading up on you, reading everything about you I possibly could, and the more I read about you, the more I talk to you, I'm really excited about you being a future Las Vegas Raider. Where do you think you're going to go in the draft? I guess that would be my final question. Where are they telling you? You don't know yet?
It doesn't matter.
About that? It doesn't matter. That's right.
I can't control it. I'm gonna be happy regardless.
Are you gonna watch the draft from home? You gonna watch it with your mom and dad?
Yeah, I'm gonna be with my family in my house back home.
Good for you. Good for you, man. Yeah, I'll be watching it here in my home too, so it'll be like we're watching it together.
Lit.
Seriously though, man, I will watch it every minute of every day till you get picked. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, like I was a fan of you before, but after today, I'm probably your biggest fan that's not related to you. So
appreciate it, bro. I ain't got fans. Hey, I ain't got fans.
You got friends and family, right?
I got friends, family, and believers, man.
Yeah, well,
you either believe or you don't.
You can count me in that friends and believer portion of that. And then who knows, man, maybe someday, we'll get to hang out and meet and we can become family,
Straight up.
Yeah. So, hey, if you want to stick around here afterwards, when I say goodbye to everyone in this, that'd be great. But for now, that's a Go Big Redcast. Go Big Red. Give us one.